This is Into the Hen House, a podcast for moms with littles. In this space, we share the stories, experiences, and wild wisdom of mothers. We remember and celebrate the sacred. We are your hosts, Andrea and
Caitlin.
Get ready for some inspiration because it's time to jump into the hen house. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're so happy you're here. I have an amazing guest today, and this is Coleen. So this is actually Chantel's mom, and she is a mom. She's a grandma. She has 6 grandkids, and just a really wonderful human. She's so kind with her family and really prioritizes them. And we were talking, I don't know, some months ago, maybe over the holidays. And she was telling me the most amazing stories of her growing up and then of her when her kids were little and of just the fun history of growing up in Canada and growing up wild and free in nature and growing up with just such a beautiful relationship with her mother. And I just thought, you know what, this would be such a fun, sentimental story time kind of episode. So welcome to story time. Coleen, thank you for being here.
Have me. I was saying I write a lot of stories myself about my past, and maybe that's why I remember them, but just beautiful days of freedom on the farm, running around in nature, and things that are kind of indelible. It's kind of nice that I share them, whether people want to hear them or not sometimes, but yeah. I was raised on a farm. I had 3 brothers, and in an era, I'm 74, so it was a time when you didn't have the means to be anywhere else. I was on the farm for 18 years all summer, for instance, and which I think is rare now. And even when I tell people that, oh, we were sitting outside on the north side of the house shelling peas and snapping beans when I was young, and because it was the only place that was cool. You didn't have air conditioning. I said, we didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have, we had a coal furnace and chopped wood for the furnace. And we didn't have indoor plumbing. So, and they were, well, that's impossible. You're not old enough. I said, no, there are lots of families that's the way it was.
Yeah. My mom actually too, her family didn't get indoor plumbing until she was 12 or 13. And she's, I don't know, 65 or 66 right now. So it's time. And that's, I think, part of why I think this episode is fun and special, because that wasn't that long ago.
That's what I say. I consider myself young, which is a problem. I do consider myself young, I guess, but it is shocking to people because even when they say the olden days, I go, that's not me. That's my grandma's age. My grandma lived across the field, and so she parented me too. My grandparents lived across the field on the farm, not in the same farmyard, but we could run back and forth and ride my pony back and forth and be chased by the dog and whatnot. And all the city cousins would come out and experience that, but I just didn't think it was that different or unique. But the memories are good. They're all good. They're wonderful. And when you talk about nature, Andrea, it's hard for me to do it in a perspective of my own kids now who live in the city, because you can try to introduce them to the same life, but it's very different.
Well, farm life would be very different even than just country living life. You know, like it's a different, it's just a different feel. And but can you tell us more about that? Like, what was it like growing up on a farm? And that's something most people now don't actually know. I mean, I didn't grow up on a farm, though I grew up in a farming community. So I do know some things about farming. I do know about living on a big property because I did grow up for a chunk of my childhood on like a 5+ acre property. So definitely like I know a little bit about country living. Um, but farm
Um,
life, it's a little bit different. So,
Interestingly, the town that I grew up near, well, my mom was a school teacher and she got posted to a little town. She taught high school in a village called Bethany,
oh, beautiful.
which I find beautiful too. And she was teaching high school there, and they used to have these fundraisers at the hall, and my dad had just come back from the war, and they met at the hall and married a year or so later. Anyway, so she moved to that community, and we lived a mile and a half from the little village of Bethany, which had one church, which I didn't know the name of it because it was church, but we went to that church. And my grandma played the organ at that church. She lived on the farm just across the field, literally. So my brother was born, and then I was born 2 years later, and my mom was in hospital for 9 days with Ken. And no, we don't know why. She doesn't know why, but when she had me, she decided things were going to be different, and she, wanted me not to be bottle fed and all that. And she told me all these stories. And then, so I remember those young years, not daily, but different things, different incidents that you remember about the farm. Grandma and Grandpa being near. I remember if Grandma and Grandpa babysat me, crawling into bed with my grandma. I can still smell her bedroom. I literally, it was all so many good memories. I can still smell that farm across the road.
Mhm.
If I shut my eyes, I can see myself running through maybe sometimes even a crop. A crop meaning a field of flax or a field of wheat or a field of oats. It's very easy for me to put myself back in those memories. Grandma had a big old British style, they were Scottish, house, and I could draw every room in that house to this day, and associate the smells. And she was a beautiful gardener and had beautiful flowers. And my mom came from a farm about 100 miles away, so she didn't get to see her mom 2 or 3 times a year, but we saw my paternal grandma all the time. And then my other next brother was born when I was 5. So I remember that too. I remember the night he was born, and I remember rocking him to sleep, and just everything about mom raising this little guy. So
Mhm.
when my older brother would be 7, and then 5 years after that, I was 10. So I kind of know how we were raised. Definitely, we had a family bed, um, kind of rotating sometimes. There was a crib in there and different things like that, and different attitudes. Mom and dad always there for us, which was just fortunate. I mean, you can't predict how your life will be. I just think I was lucky that I had 4 adults and I was a sensitive young girl, so my feelings would have been easily hurt. I don't remember even being yelled at, maybe once or twice. But my brothers say the same thing.
Hmm.
Maybe
That's
we were just,
beautiful.
it's weird, I think, but
Yeah, and maybe unusual. Now, you also mentioned, and I love this, and I think it just is worth saying because I think it's every parent's goal, is that you felt absolutely 100% unconditionally loved by your parents. Like there was no question.
I don't know. I don't even know if I felt that they cared about things, but they were just, were they too busy to discipline? I don't know. We were good. I think we were good. I mean, I remember my little brother dumping the syrup over his head. I remember all the things that kids do. And I remember my mom always there and having patience for it. She just was such a kind soul. Um, and my dad was out doing his thing, but my mom had so many chores, so many jobs on the farm, whether it was chickens and
Mhm.
pigs, and so I should remember stress, but I didn't even know that word. We never used that word. Even when we would talk about the weather, and I wrote about these things. I guess I've written about these things, so maybe that's why I remember them so well. But um, we did not have extra money, and everything depended on the weather and
Mhm.
whether there was going to be any extra money or anything. And I didn't think I was poor. I did not ever think I was poor. We grew everything that we ate except fruit.
Mhm.
And we picked all the berries that were in the neighborhood. And I can, if I shut my eyes, I can feel my little fingers clumped around a group of Saskatoons or cranberries or whatever. We picked them all.
Mhm.
Um, so we helped a lot, but nobody called it a job chart or an allowance. When we would go to the little village store, my dad was the one that would offer a treat. We ate really healthily. We couldn't afford chemicals, so we did not have to. I didn't have to worry about pulling off some wheat. You can chew the grain seed, the wheat seed, and make gum. Did you know
Mhm.
that?
No, I did
Oh
not.
yeah, you make gum. And when I was raising my own children, we went out there all the time, and I'd go to do that, and I think, well, what if this was sprayed? What if there's this, that, and the other on
Yeah.
this? We didn't think of any of that when we were young. One time I took Chantel, my daughter, out. She was maybe 9, to a field, not a field, some fields north of our farm, and I think we picked 17 different varieties of flowers, all which occur now in a nursery, but they were the
Mhm.
wild form of it.
Yeah.
So just a
That's
little different.
beautiful.
It was.
Now, did you and your
Yeah.
husband farm as well or no?
No,
Okay.
no. That's the one thing that is another thing that we didn't talk about. So when you grow up on the farm, you know you will be going to the city.
Okay.
And when you're 18, so my oldest brother, he got bursaries, um, and his university was paid for, and he became got it. He was studying for his doctorate in sociology. I went into the nearby city, which is 2.5 hours away,
Mhm.
and then my other brother 5 years later left, and so we all abandoned my mom, um, even though the kids were pretty far apart. So I never my mom and dad stayed on the farm 15 years after I left.
Okay.
But don't forget, my little brother's 10 years younger than me. So
Right.
they did move to the city when all the grandparents were born, all grandchildren were born.
Okay.
They were there for my children, but the farm was sold.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah,
So it would have been similar in my family. Like both of my parents grew up on a farm as well. And then both of them, I don't know the story actually for sure on my mom's side. But on my dad's side, his dad died when he was 18, and he really, really wanted to take over the farm. But his brother did not want to. And my grandma said, no, no, you can't. You're 18. I can't put this all on you.
Oh,
That's not right. It's too much. You don't understand. Like, you just don't quite understand. And so she sold the farm, and my dad
yeah.
did something else. So
Well, many people have said to me, I can't believe that, that farm was, that land was allotted to your Scottish grandparents and your grandpa had it and your dad. Wasn't your dad upset when your brothers didn't farm? I said, no, he wasn't. Maybe his dad would have been, but dad, it's a beautiful life, but it's a hard life. It's a lonely life. Dad
mhm.
wrote poems, and I have some of them framed. My parents,
Yeah, they were very artistic, weren't they? Your mom
yeah,
wrote
they were very
poetry
artistic,
too,
and
and music
my,
you had mentioned.
my mom painting the shutters bright pink. That one, yeah. Is that it?
Well, you had talked about music and painting and
Oh,
poetry.
well, so
Um,
grandma, my dad's mother was had 9 brothers, and she was the youngest. And her mother was a healer who used to travel around the countryside with all these different recipes, concoctions, which just I can't remember the names of them, but I do have it on tape. Um, and so she taught my grandma, how to fix everything. And and I think I told you probably that we were also, my mom believed in body work, so we had chiropractic the minute she found out about it. We had body work, that was a given. But
yeah.
my grandma was trained by the Toronto Conservatory of Music, which was unheard of
Oh,
in those
wow.
days. It's
That's
not that there was a lot
really.
of money, but the 9 brothers got together and sent her to school. So she
Oh,
taught
wow.
music, and she taught music. If everybody could meet my grandma, it would be such a gift to them. But anyway, she taught music. She's the one that said, I remember dropping a cup in the kitchen and it broke. And I'm so sorry. Anything can be fixed, she said, but except little girls' feelings and hearts. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
combination of having a sensitive child too, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I didn't see her raise my dad or her kids. She had 4. But these 9 brothers had paid for her, and so she taught music. And I remember going over there and quietly opening the screen door, and she had many students. And that was what she did to help with the income, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I love that though. And that's
And
really
so there was always
extraordinary.
music. So
Yeah.
I don't think we got a TV in the house till 1956 or 58, or I don't remember. And
Yeah.
the radio, there was a radio. We all had radios.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And community work, like one of the reasons I was never a waitress, even ever, is I served at the local fall suppers in the church when I was young, and I spilled hot creamed corn on somebody's shoulder. That fixed that. It's kind of funny.
Your
Never did
reputation
that.
got known.
Yeah,
Yeah.
never did that job. And did many, many, many of my friends ended up waitressing for a little while in the local. There was enough work on the farm, but my grandma was still on the farm. So, I can remember almost every row where asparagus grew wild. I can remember her rows of peas and beans. And she put flowers in between the rows. So I helped her with the garden and I helped my mom with the garden. But I didn't resent any of it because it didn't feel like work. I learned so much, in those days
Yeah.
of just, and my grandpa and my dad had a small farm, so they did not have the big equipment like they did through the
Mm-hmm.
bales. I didn't have to do that hard physical work. My brothers did the baling, if you know what a
Mm-hmm.
bale is. Well, a straw bale,
Yes, I do know bales. Yeah.
yeah, a straw bale is without the fodder or the crop on top. And when I was teaching
Mm-hmm.
ESL, which I did for a number of years, I would put these charts up about, wheat and oats and all these things and what they made, like the
Mm-hmm.
Cheerios as oats. And I would teach all this, and
Mm-hmm.
I would teach that the straw is what the cow sleeps on, and hay is what the cow eats. And
Mm-hmm.
teachers were stopping by and looking at this, and I never knew this. I never knew this. And I said, well, I don't think it matters anything, but like you have to teach something. And that was a good subject that I knew. So
Right?
farm
Yeah.
kids got an easier time at school. Like one time the mom sow got sick or died. And we had to bottle feed 18 little pigs in the house, all of us, to keep them
Mm-hmm.
alive until I just don't remember the story what they did after that. But for 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
we bottle fed these little pigs. It was just
Mm-hmm.
lots of wonderful memories. But I'm sure our kids are developing that kind of memory. I've not asked my kids how clear their memories are of certain things. How
Right.
about
I'm
you?
sure everybody has memory. I mean, I
Yeah,
have some very clear memories
yeah.
for sure, and they're different. Um, but I have a lot of memories of being outside too. Like right now, my daughter is obsessed with kitty cats. She loves kitty cats. And so I am remembering, and it's things I haven't thought of in a long time, but I had
Nicely.
this little kitten. It's a little black kitten, and at the time, my younger sister and I, if a car was blue, we named the car Bluey. If if the cat was like had white fur, we named it Snowball. It was like something like that. So we had
I
two
love it.
cats, and one was Blackie and one was Snowball. And Snowball had lost an ear, I think, from being like frostbite, I'm assuming. And but Blackie was this little kitten, and we found her up in the tree at the end of our driveway. And it was summer because I can still in my mind smell the lilac bushes, which are a wonderful smell. It's like, wow, I love that smell. Um, and this little tiny kitten was up there. So we ran to go get my dad to get this kitten down, and then that became our kitten. It wasn't our kitten, but it
What
became our
things
kitten.
were
We
was that
adopted it.
on the acreage or in the
Yeah, that was on the
yeah?
acreage.
You
Yeah.
wonder where they came from. I know.
Yeah. And then when I got a little bit older, we moved into town. It was a small town, but still it was into town. And so then it was more town, town life. But that was fun too. We would ride our bicycles places, and it's a different childhood than my daughter is having, at least in certain ways for sure. And it's a different childhood than my parents had, but I think everybody gets to find their way, right? Like I think about it here and I go, like my sister and I would have been, I don't know, it was like 10. That would have made her 5. And my mom would give us a toonie, or a loony or something like that, and say, okay, take your bikes and go get popsicles.
Yeah,
And we would
exactly.
drive to Main Street on our bicycles. We'd
Yeah.
cross Main Street. We'd eat our popsicles in the parking lot there, and then we'd come home. And I'm going like, I don't know that there's anywhere where I live right now where that would be possible.
Would they even do it? I've often wondered, Andrea, is this happening in small towns now? It's so true. You're just so right
Right?
about
I don't know,
that.
right? I don't live in a super small town. This was,
No.
like a legitimately small town. I don't know how many people. It became a city which was 10,000 people around the time that I left, which was around 20. Um, and so this would have been 10 years prior that. I don't know how many people were in the town,
It would be considered. The town that I
but
went to high school in by bus every day is still only three 2,400. But I should say, I didn't say this. We built a cottage when I was 23 at Minnedosa Lake, which is 10
Mhm.
miles from Bethany. And so everybody is still there. We have our family reunion now there in August. There's
Oh,
about
that's
90 of
beautiful.
us. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
It's a big gathering. Yeah.
yeah, it's a big gathering, but it's around the fire pit and the fire and the lake and so
Hmm.
that town, and that's probably part of it too. That town, I never left the town. I just didn't, because
Hmm.
by the time mom and dad moved to the city, I was 35 when Chris was born and 38 when Chantal was born. And mom and dad moved to the city the year Chris was born. So we had the farm to travel to till I was 35, their farm.
Hmm.
I just didn't have, yeah. And then,
Yeah.
so, and then now that, so our kids were raised in a city, but they did spend a lot of time
Hmm.
rurally. Chris's birthday party was on the creek down by our house, and they do
Yeah.
remember those things like that. Chantal remembers feeding the horse at the end of our um, the end of this path,
Hmm.
carrots, different things. So I think, but I've
Yeah.
not had a chance to really ask too
Yeah.
much about you remember. But
Yeah.
the the food we ate, we didn't talk about whether it was healthy or not, but mom just didn't buy anything bought
Yeah.
cookies or bought it, and dad
Well,
would
you
buy a
ate
treat.
real food because you grew real food.
We grew it all. And I can remember just being so excited when I was a teenager if I was invited to a friend's place at lunch, having bought bread or bought cookies. Isn't that funny?
That is funny. That is funny. Now, I will say, you know what, even for my childhood, it was definitely a bit of a thing that sometimes kids at school would make fun of me or something because they're like I met kids, goodness, like they would make fun because I'd have homemade cookies and whatever, and I'm going, oh, don't make fun of me. Mine are so much better than yours. Like you can make fun if you want, but I didn't like candy. It was my mom would make homemade bread. My mom bought stuff too. It wasn't like she never bought stuff, but my mom did a really good job of that, of keeping things really local. And my mom was not a gardener. My grandma was a gardener. My mom was not a gardener. But my mom loved flowers, so we planted tons of flowers, but she didn't like to grow vegetables so much. It wasn't really her thing.
Quite a bit younger than me, even, really, if you think of that
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but still, so I'm trying to think. I would have been, so I had a roommate. I was living in Atlanta at the time, which I don't know. I would have been maybe 23 or 24, something like that. And our, the lady I lived with was older, so her kids were my age, and she had a grandson. So her grandson came to visit, and and he's like, I want some cookies. Um,
So he moved,
but so
excuse me, he
he was
came home
he
to
was
his
four,
yeah,
yeah, he was four, I think, 3 or 4, something like
right?
that. And he comes to visit his grandma, and he says, Grandma, I want cookies. And she's like, Oh, I don't have any. And he's like, But I want cookies. And I was like, and I'm like sitting there going, I'm like, you know what? I have the ingredients. I'm like, we can make cookies. I'm like, we'll bake cookies together. And he's like, oh, okay, that's fun. So I go to the fridge and start pulling out eggs and flour, and and he's like, what are you doing? Where's the Pillsbury
Love that.
package? And I'm like, no, we're baking cookies. And he's like, I don't understand.
Just love that. Oh, yesterday we had a little contest. My daughter was making pot roast, and Chanel, my granddaughter was making cookies with her mom, and I was making biscuits with my grandson. And it wasn't intended to be a contest, but was going to have to taste which were the best. And uh, but so the chocolate chips, you see, were going into these oatmeal cookies. I think it was chocolate chips, not raisins. But so then we had to get. Well, we don't really want to have a call. We don't really want to hurt anybody's feelings. I went, oh, you know, that's how I was raised. Not to make anybody feel feel bad or feel that somebody's better than the other. And yeah, good or bad, they're going to get it at school. There's going to be contests. There's
Yeah.
going to be,
Yeah.
rankings of things and stuff like that. But it did make me laugh. So I
Yeah.
would say my grandma's biscuit recipe was pretty good. Oh dear. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Because
amazing.
and my granddaughter said, but I think you cheated because you got a new idea. You added in a new idea because you said that it said to grate the butter, which
Mm.
we did not grate the butter when I grate the butter,
Yeah.
hard butter,
Yeah. I've
whatever.
never done that in my life.
But I do know that my mom, we wouldn't eat margarine. We wouldn't eat, there was all sorts of things. I don't even know where my mom learned. We always wonder where my mom learned. She had a book of art. Pardon me. I have a book. I took pictures of art, and there was 700 pictures or something like that. And I would say, Mom, where'd you get this idea? I don't know. It just came to me. Her poems. Andrea, I don't know if I shared Mom's poems with you.
Yeah,
I
you
found
shared
her.
a couple
Yeah.
of them with me.
I don't. She. Pretty interesting. Pretty special. And the same with this art and that. And intuitively, she just knew certain things were. It's our opinion, I understand. There are listeners that have very many different opinions, so please make sure I honor them. The difference in your oils and that. And Mom taught me, and I told my kids, but they discovered most of the things on their own.
Yeah. Now your mom was really interesting in, like, there was certain things you maybe didn't necessarily 100% know about her, or know that she believed or knew what her thoughts were on certain things until close to when she passed. Is that
She
true?
never, yeah, yes, that's true. I remember saying to Mom, if there's no, at a certain age, I hope the listeners are, there's no Santa, Easter Bunny, all those things, then why would I believe in God? And she said, that's different, and you will feel that. That's all I remember. Ever talking about it. Didn't know which church, didn't know. And oh, I probably have 30 poems or things she wrote, and I didn't discover that book until the year she died, the year she
Mhm.
was. And same with another book of drawings. And my mom had my grandma for help. I did not seek enough help when I was a young mom by people who would be more than willing. I don't know why I thought I could do it all, and because I did till I didn't. I mean, then I just different things. Maybe even the introduction of food that wasn't as healthy for me, because that happens, when you're cutting corners on the budget, and salads takes too long to make. Just different things that led to me having some health problems when I was young. And my mom was, of course, older then, and she had simplified her eating to a great deal, which was interesting because it's still a confusion in my head. What came first? Where these ideas came from and where. But I remember the first time I got a microwave, I just couldn't use it. I couldn't go near it. And I said, I think it's gonna make me sick. I think it's whatever. And then getting it checked, and it was leaking 18 times the allowable amount. Then I got the radon checked to my basement. So my mom didn't have to do all of that, but when they got a little wealthier, a little more, out in the world a little bit where you could eat out or whatever, her health declined.
Mm-hmm.
So it is my belief that um, she learned it, she shared it, and I don't know where she learned it from. Why did mom want to go to a chiropractor and take us to chiropractors as babies? That isn't that normal? No, what I mean in 1958,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we had to drive a lot of miles to find, So, and oh, what a blessing! I mean, we still go to the chiropractor first with anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they say that they cure it, but for me, if I can get in touch with my own spine, my own body, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's how I was raised. That sensitivity
Yeah.
to that.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing to be raised to connect to yourself. What a wonderful thing. Can you
People say,
tell
"Well, I
me,
don't even feel that things. I don't even feel that." Well, fine if you think that's great. I don't.
and different people have different sensitivities, right? I am a chiropractor, so clearly I love it. Changed my life 100%. And like so radically, there was never any going back. There was only going forward, and it's just like, no. I don't need to go back to where I was. I don't need like I am a
Any
convert for
time,
life.
yeah.
No.
And any time that I fell away from that in my certain years, in my just whatever the reason was, whether I thought, oh, I can't afford to go. Okay, like you wouldn't go eat good food once only and say, okay, well, I'm fixed. Like, why do I have to go back? It took me a while to know where I should be putting my focus. So I appreciate that. If you're saying, well, why would I do that if I'm not sick? Well, it's prevention for me. It truly is. And
Well, and I think it's even more than that. To me, it's also, and so you are under care with Network Spinal, which that's how I practice. That's how I practice personally as the chiropractor. And to me, that's yes, it's about health. Yes, it's about nervous system health. And it's also just about really connecting to yourself. Like for me, it's like it's that moment where you get to lay down on the table and that time is entirely yours. And you get to breathe and you get to simply be with your body. And I think, especially as mothers, like I'll have people ask me, they're like, how are you? And I'm going, hang on. Like I don't
feel
actually
you.
know. It's I've been
Yeah,
running around like a crazy
yeah.
person for like a day. I'm not sure. Let me sit for a second. Let me take a breath. Like, how am I? What is it that I actually feel? And this is like to me, that's something very special. It's this dedicated time to
And
really
other
connect
people
with yourself.
and other people are, what can I do to disconnect? What can I do to not feel that? How can I not feel that? There's so many things you can do to not feel it, even
Oh,
over
there's
exercising or over this or that
yeah.
or TV or, yeah,
And I
I
don't think
know.
it works at the end of the day. It won't make you when you disconnect. This is my absolute belief. This has been my life experience. I think there's PhDs in psychology I've read books on who talk about this too, that I couldn't tell you who it was. Maybe Dr. Shafali, she might have talked about this in one of her books, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% for sure. But when you disconnect from everything. When you shut down the pain, you shut down the joy. When you shut down um,
Yeah.
what you're feeling, you shut down your ability to connect with other people, you shut down everything. And that's a really unpleasant way to live life. So, my thought is embrace the pain, move through it, find solutions, find, even if you need help navigating, yes, there's options, and there's certainly natural options. And I'm not saying to never do medication or things like that. Sometimes that's necessary. And certainly for some kinds of pain, it's necessary. Um, but I think even just meditation, it's a way to connect,
Yes. Yeah.
to like be, what is my body telling me, and to be present with oneself. And at the end of the day, I think there's going to be more happiness and more life satisfaction in that.
Kindness
That's
and
my
love and understanding. People accuse me. Why do you give everybody a second chance? Why do you forgive everybody? Why do you have to give excuses for everybody? So I don't mean to. I am sorry if that's offensive. I don't sit here and want to defend people. I feel like I'm in a boat with 10 me's sometimes because I connect to something so much bigger than me, larger than me, something. It's very difficult to explain. And
uh,
I didn't walk into
yeah.
that accidentally. And I taught a course on stress one time or something like that. And I said, even if you could just bring yourself back to baseline, figure out what baseline feels for you. And then, because what we do in this world, I did it this morning. I I got a call on the answer machine that said that I must have left a tap on because I was flooding something below me. I went into panic. Like, that's not good. I mean, there are things that happen that
Mm-hmm.
make us anxious. And then something else happened that I thought, no, you bring yourself back down, deal with one thing at a time, which my husband's so good at helping me do,
Mm-hmm.
working ourselves through how some kind of resolution, even if it's another thing I taught was pick a time. Let's say Granny needs to go into a nursing home. And I've helped a lot of people with this kind of thing, Andrea. Okay, that's overwhelming to you. You've got this, and this. You've got a baby. You've got all this. Let's say on Thursday night at 5:30. So never mind the baseline, like I got myself down today and it all worked out well physically. So you're not like by 5 o'clock here when you're going to meet your children or whatever you're going to meet at the end of your day. You're already so keyed up. Bring yourself back down. But this putting off and prioritizing when to deal with things. So at 5:30 on Thursday, I'm going to look into nursing homes, whatever. You got to promise me you won't do that till Thursday. Well, that just can't. And I work, and okay, you have more control over that than you think. Because, so that's what I preach.
Mm-hmm.
Separating yourself from your issues, for one. Issues, don't like that word either,
Mm-hmm.
but you were talking about the stages of healing. I think, those
Yeah.
stages of
Yeah.
healing,
Yeah.
they're important. And I hope that word gets out about those stages where there's a
Yeah.
time to
Those
suffer.
those are brilliant books, by the way. Don't so this is just for our listeners. Donny Epstein. He was the person who came up with network spinal, which is a chiropractic technique. Um, and it was based on a bunch of different research that he did, and experience and life experience and all of that. Um, and he's an interesting person. I didn't actually love meeting him in person. He wasn't my favorite person to meet.
He's tough.
I, I don't know that I would say that, but I just didn't like him. I thought he was a little too arrogant for my taste. But that's not
I
the
hear
point.
you. No, I hear
His
you, and I know what
but
you mean. And when I say tough,
his books are brilliant.
yeah,
There's Healing Myths, Healing Magic, and the 12 Stages of Healing.
stages of
Both
healing.
brilliant books. Really love his books. Like, hands down, 100% all in love with his books. There's so much goodness in them. Yeah.
videos that he sold. And he argued with me, on the phone. And by then I think he and I are the same age, but I might be wrong. I'm not sure if this is going to end. It's a fact. I was offended by him. And that was the word, arrogant. And I thought, okay, I know I'm sensitive. I know that I can remember any time in my whole life that anybody challenged me unfairly. And I can remember them. But I there's two ways to an end, and I didn't like it, didn't appreciate it. And
Yeah.
um,
And
somewhere I've got that DVD. It
yeah.
was, but the 12 stages of healing are brilliant.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. So I feel like every once in a while people will challenge me and I might resist initially. And then I think about it later and I go, no, they had a point. They had a point and I can accept that. And I can see this now, even though I got offended at the moment. No, they had a point. I'm okay with that. I'm okay to look at myself
But
that
if they
way.
didn't have, sorry, go
And
ahead.
and then sometimes I think also is and can also be healing is to sit with myself and go, you know what? No, they got it 100% wrong. And that's not me being arrogant or whatever. That's just me saying, no, they got it wrong. That's not true what they said about me. That's not my
Mm.
issue. That's something else, but that's not me. And
As
that's
if they had a
too,
right at all. That's the other thing.
you know.
The criticism. Oh, Andrea, I mean, I did things differently. Like popsicles made out of
Yeah.
broccoli,
I love
cottage
that.
cheese, and applesauce, and frozen, and calling them popsicles, and people laughing at me. I didn't care about that.
Yeah.
There was some
Now
things, but there was
you were also a little radical because you kind of had a gentle parenting approach with your kids, which would have been, I'm imagining, pretty rare in the like what, late 80s, early 90s.
so parenting to you probably got me. I don't know. I couldn't um I couldn't imagine yelling at my children. I I think I because I was sensitive. I don't know why. I just thought their feelings, their feelings. And I know sometimes they told me later, both of them, it would have been not bad to know that, Mom. And I go, why I didn't. Do you want to give some examples? Okay. Why didn't you tell me that some people drink Lysol to get high? I'm in social work. I'm supposed to know this. And they're all laughing at me because I
I've
must have
never
had
heard
this
of that.
crazy upbringing, sophisticated upbringing. I said, no, you didn't have a sophisticated up. You had a very wholesome, holistic upbringing,
Yeah.
which didn't involve telling you that some. Andrea, this is a very common conversation that I have with the kids in their early 20s. And did you think maybe that you should have told me this? And I'm going, I, so I can beat myself up probably more than when my husband still says to me all the time, "You're so confident." I said, "No, I'm not. You act so confident." No, I fine if you think I do. And I said to my daughter and my son someday, by the way, some people are going to think you're confident and or you're arrogant or whatever, because that's just, I've been accused of it. It might happen to you. So don't be surprised if when you're feeling the most insecure, it's because someone has tried to make you feel insecure because they felt threatened by you and inferior to you. No, I don't, really, I think so. I think I'm right because it's happened to me. And in retrospect, I've said, you know, being nice and understanding doesn't mean that you're just a pushover. Do you understand even
Mhm.
what I'm saying a little bit?
Yeah.
A little bit like
Yeah.
if you can be confident in your heart and your kindness and everything like that, but appearing cocky,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it can. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well,
You're
I
so gentle, Andrea, and I'm not as gentle as you in my approach. You're like my mom. My mom was gentle like
I
you.
am very gentle. And it's been interesting though. Like I think becoming a mother changes you a little bit because I think in my head there were certain ideas, and not that I conceptually thought this was true, but as I've sat with myself, I'm going somewhere inside of me, I have believed it to be true. Like, let's say to forgive someone means there can be no boundaries. It's just you forgive them and now they get to do whatever they want again. And it's like, no, no.
Good for you.
No, no. Maybe that's how it was growing up. And it's like you forgive mostly for your own well-being. And there can still be boundaries. You can still like so it's interesting how I feel like sometimes we get these different ideas in us and where they come from, who knows, right? Like it's and I think that's the thing too. It's like we can do as much right as possible as parents, and there's still going to be things where your kids are like, "Why didn't you tell me this?" Or you know.
And why did you why did you make me try all sports instead of getting me really good in one? I'm going, I'm so sorry. I let you do whatever you wanted. You wanted to play the piano, I let you, and we really did. They made their so many decisions when they were 3. I had a little daycare, and I taught all these kids to pour their own juice. Oh boy, I had quite a few kids in my daycare. And some days I needed help, like my dad or something, because of numbers, right? But
Mhm.
I can remember the parents, well, they're not doing that at home. And I go, I'm so sorry. My kids, like, I just taught them how to open the fridge and pour it's just what I did. It doesn't mean, you put them in my care,
Yeah.
pay me $2 an hour to look after them, by the way. And
Which is really wild.
it's just truth.
That's really
Me and
wild.
my friends still laugh about that because she's still
Yeah.
my best friend, and we talk about those days. And when our husbands would come home from their job, because we had no money, and we have fed them $2 worth of cantaloupe. True, or
Yeah.
we both, and we're the same age. Oh, she's a farm girl, same everything, and still
Mhm.
good friends. And our kids were the same age, and we laugh about that, but it isn't a better life you can make. Pardon me. I want to admit that what if I went through a lot of this? What if you laugh a lot and you make jokes because you actually want to cry? Oh, well, sometimes I do it because I want to cry, but sometimes I do it because I'm funny. And what if you say you had a good childhood and nobody yelled at you because you had to toe the line all the time because you were afraid? Well, I don't know. I think I would remember fear. I only remember being afraid twice.
Sorry, hang on one
Okay, go
second.
ahead.
Hang on. We've got a little crisis. Okay.
Welcome back.
We're back.
Oh,
Oh. You know what I have in my head? That would be, I think, a nice story to wrap up on. You had sent me a story that you had written about the creek.
right.
Can you tell us about the creek?
I wish
It
I
was
could
a
read it, but
beautiful
I don't have
story.
it here. I wish I could read it, but
Do
I
you want
don't
me to
have it.
try and find
But,
it? I might have it. Do you want
oh,
me to try
well,
and
do you
find
want to
it?
read it? Do you want to read it?
I could if I can
You
find it.
could. I certainly
Here it
know.
is, the creek.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Oh, yeah, you go ahead. It would be a nice
Okay.
closeout. It would be a nice
Okay.
closeout. Yeah.
Okay. What do you really know about a creek? Did you know a creek could be your best friend? I grew up sisterless and spent countless brother-filled hours tied up to a fence post, licking the horse's salt and pretending to be a horse, or on a rainy day playing push the wagon in a garage full of kegs, all of which boasted an infinite number of metal pieces, bolts, nuts, nails of all sorts, from shingle nails to carpet tacks. The weakest link in this game, of course, being the one who crashed into the keg and sent its contents flying across the floor in anticipation of the arrival of the family's vehicle's tires, then subsequently being relegated to picking up all the nails. That's actually really funny. Or on sunny days, spending at least 2 hours building high roads in the sand pit, a glorious pile of sand, hand shoveled from the nearby gravel pit with care to bring only the true sand and not the stones home in the stone boat. Each time thinking that maybe my brothers meant to actually play with our trucks and cars instead of growing bored and kicking the whole shebang in before we even got to the rusty paint, chipped toys out of the corner where they lay covered in cobwebs, ants, or ladybugs, awaiting the ribbon cutting ceremony of the new high roads, to which my memory never did happen under my watch. Now, these are really only 3 of the countless games that we children played on the farm. Haven't mentioned the real dangerous ones yet. I don't recommend to do these at home. No, I added that part. Sorry, that wasn't what you wrote. Like jumping from the garage rooftop to the granary rooftop, to the chicken coop rooftop, and down to the ground. That's on a good day when one leg didn't dangle down over the first eaves trough while you kicked and squirmed to get enough counterbalance to get back up, or fall off and get disqualified. Now, don't be thinking I didn't enjoy these games. I have nothing but fond memories of every one of them because I was seriously born with a great optimistic and enthusiastic attitude, and I always knew there would be a new exciting idea conjured up to test us. Today, on thinking back upon our whole youth, many days were like an exciting game of Survivor, and I mean exciting. Yet, compared to today's youth, those days were ever so simple, never requiring anything but our imagination and nature itself. Did I mention calf riding or pig riding? Just try that. Anyway, the creek, my friend, my place of solitude. Do you know of a creek of your own? A creek is never the same. The level of the water alone provided a variety of adventures and sights. There are endless nooks and crannies and places to explore. Our creek was in plain view of our farmyard, which itself rested pretty high on the hill and let you see for miles to the south, east and west, but to the north, the creek nestled at the bottom of a hill which led up to the endless northern sky. The Riding Mountain Range began about where our farmland divided near the muskeg. The creek was 675 steps from our yard to its nearest and safest place to play, down through the potato patch, past the outhouse and the chicken coop, picking the spot on the fence that had the loosest wire, scooting under or over, depending on your leg length, down past the silver willows, and keeping eyes peeled due northeast, and you were there. Oh, this memory of the sounds of the creek babbling over rocks in the summertime, or gushing over rocks, twigs, and anything else in its path in the spring, or slowing to a trickle in late fall, almost as if knowing it best scamper away before the chilling and later freezing air dropped to its bed. To the left of the creek entered into a fairly deep bush, and the golden weathered leaves left the trees in fall. You could wind your way in there and be out of sight in no time. In early spring, the creek to the left was lined with pussy willows as far as the eye could see. I would sit on what seemed to me like a huge rock in an area that you could not reach later in the summer due to heavy foliage. How do you say that? Foliage. But also a point where the water ran deep because of the melting snow in spring. So this was a brave and daring little trip for me when I was really little. I would sit on the rock to which I had jumped, having been blessed with long legs for my age, and I would sing at the top of my Lungs. I know a little pussy, her coat is soft and gray. She lives down in the meadow, not very far away. She'll always be a pussy, she'll never be a cat, for she's a pussy willow. Now what do you think of that? I would sing that song every spring down on that rock at least 10 to 15 times, and every single time I would chuckle to myself with sincere anticipation and child's wonderment, imagining that the listener either thought that it was a cat or conversely had their mind in the gutter. That song never failed, and to this day still does not fail to bring a smirk to my lips. Sorry, every time I pick pussy willows in the spring, I am taken back to a time long ago and the peace and happiness associated with my annual pilgrimage um, to the Pussy Willow Grove. Have you ever seen a creek bed full of marsh marigolds? You know what I loved best about them? They owned the creek and the creek owned them. You could not pick them and have them survive. I personally thought that was just the greatest coup. They couldn't become extinct like the Indian paintbrush or the tiger lilies, because you would be crazy to pick them only to see them die in the sealer on the kitchen table within the hour. They grew in clumps and really didn't look like a marigold at all. They more looked like a small calendula or even a bunch of buttercups, but turned the entire creek bed yellow. Their green stems filled to the brim with juice, and the shaft was so thin and delicate they just could not survive the picking. But if one accidentally did get picked, just to tuck it in your ear while you were down at the creek, which wasn't really wrong because it stayed in the creek, you could suck the cool liquid right into the back of your tongue. I was sure Great Grandma Campbell would approve, and it was indeed a special cure for something. The main part of the creek was wide, with strategically placed, by nature of course, rocks to get across. Every once in a while, we had a grumpy cow that I chose to not be near, and always felt safer on the other side of the creek. Never a bull, because a bull doesn't just sit around a farmyard waiting to impregnate whichever cow he pleases. Bulls are taken from farmer to farmer, kind of like a community bull, and the bull was only in your pasture for a while, or until the job was done. As it is
Nearby.
very true, they are not friendly to kids, and we really did never want to wear red when a bull was in the pasture. Let me see. Now, to the right of the main creek, you were apt to find cow pies and gopher holes, tree stumps, and machinery parts on the path. That's just the way it was. The trees were of a different variety, much taller than they were, continually casting many dark shadows depending on the time of day. So you could actually really imagine you were in another country, and this is also where it got deep enough to swim. When I was small, that seemed like a pretty big pond. Now, when I look at it, I marvel at the memory that I thought that was really accomplishing something when I managed to get across, all four limbs flailing. Now, as the creek wound its way to the easterly section of our fence line, I must admit I never really was brave enough to spend much time there. The trees were tall, and they were very apt to be wildlife you didn't count on hopping out at you. When it was my job to fetch the cows, I took Tippy, our dog, with me, and she ran into the bush after the cattle. The foliage was thick, and I knew that's why my brother often took the city cousins in there, probably to smoke rolled up toilet paper, tell ghost stories, or solicit their help with one of his many money-making schemes. Sometimes I followed them in, but this wasn't the part of the creek that brings the fond memories of beauty, solitude, and even the strange feelings that the creek was as human as you were and perhaps your best friend. You could even look into its cool, still waters and talk to your reflection, imagining to be anyone you wanted it to be, or your audience. There's a little bit more, but I like that spot to end. But that Coleen, you wrote that, so
I
just for our
wrote
audience
that.
knows
Yeah,
that
I wrote
those
that.
are those are Colleen's stories.
I wrote that after I
Yes.
came back from Denver.
Okay. Yeah.
Had one of those
But yeah, you've written a lot of
interesting.
beautiful stories, but I'm glad.
Anyway,
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Hope to see you in person one of these days.
Yes, sometime.
Yeah, for
Sometime.
sure. Take care.
But
Be
thank you
well.
so much. Thank you for your time. And thank you to our beautiful listener. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And I hope that this episode brought some amusement and some inspiration and hopefully some smiles.
Take care.
Yes. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you are loving this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review. Both of these really help the show. As you go out into the world this week, know that we are sending you so much love and wishing you a wonderful and beautiful day. And we will see you back here soon.